Championship game to face their NFC East rivals, the Washington Commanders. 28-22. They had a 13-point lead late in the game. Almost actually blew that lead. But if not for two guys specifically, Saquon Barkley, who was unreal in this game, and Jalen Carter, defensive lineman, on a massive sack of Matthew Stafford to create the 4th and 11 on, a 3rd and 2, if I'm not mistaken. Just had a beautiful swim move, sack. I mean, the guy, CC said it last year.
Swim move, nobody blocked him.
Well, he... like when the arm went over?
Yeah, because the center turned away.
I don't blame him.
The center gave the old lookout block. He posted a hand and turned in the other direction. It's pretty easy to sack the quarterback when you don't get blocked. And I'm just sitting there thinking to myself, as an offensive line, you would think that you would want to block the best player on the opposing defense, that being Jalen Carter. Yeah, no, they didn't do that. So congratulations to the Philadelphia Eagles. They took care of business at home in some inclement weather. This is why you fight so hard to have home field advantage throughout the playoffs, because you force a Rams team coming from Southern California to play in that. And there is no doubt that that played a factor in terms of some of the things that we saw, especially with the turnovers in the second half from the Rams.
Yeah, they definitely handled their business, especially Saquon. I was so impressed with him. I continue to be so impressed with him. This has to be one of the all-time revenge seasons from somebody. To have it be on full display on Hard Knocks, his breakup, his divorce with the Giants, and for him to go to Philly and have the season that he's having and have that translate to the postseason as well. I'm just thrilled for him, and it's so fun to watch him be so dominant. And I love how in advance of this game, he reached out to LaShawn McCoy and was like, hey, you've had success in a playoff game in the snow. How do I do this? And LaShawn McCoy is giving him tips on how to run with his toes. He's texting Marshall Faulk saying, hey, when a team, you've had success against them and they're game planning for just you, how do I make myself better going into this game? He is so selfless and so singularly focused on the overall team goal of winning the Super Bowl, and I'm just so impressed with Saquon.
26 carries, 205 yards, 2 touchdowns, had TD runs of 62 to go up 13-7, 78 to go up 28-15. He was amazing in this game, but I ask you both, who was the Eagles MVP, Jalen Carter or Saquon Barkley? Because they were both dominant.
Say, can you say yes?
Yeah, I think the answer is yes.
Because you can't win that game without those performances on either side of the ball.
I think that, listen, you're right about that. You probably go Saquon only for this reason. Jalen Hurts is clearly banged up.
Yeah.
Like, clearly could not do the job that he wanted to do. But still, the most important thing, he did not give the other team the ball. Like, so to me, he did the job. I know a lot of people are critical of him. He had a huge 4th and 4 slant conversion to A.J. Brown late in the game, setting up a field goal.
How about the touchdown run to start the game?
I agree. I think people are way too critical of Jalen Hurts, and I think he did enough. I understand, okay, 15 to 20, 128, 7 carries, 70 yards, and a touchdown, but he did enough. And now as we look at the Eagles, I mean, they're in the NFC Championship game against the Commanders, who we'll get to. Should the Eagles be the favorites to win the Super Bowl right now?
Absolutely. They absolutely should be the favorite, and it's because of their formula for success. They can run the ball, they can stop the run, they can rush the opposing team's quarterback. And it's not just Jalen Carter that's doing it. It's Milton Williams. It's Nolan Smith, who's been on a heater this postseason. Hell, even going back to the end of the regular season, the way that this guy has been rushing, it's clear the light bulb has turned on for him. So that's a big part of their success as well, their second-year edge rusher. But that defense, that rush and that coverage being able to work in concert, in tandem, I think makes the entire difference. Now, what we saw with the Quinyon Mitchell injury is something that we've got to pay attention to. Mm-hmm. You saw that pop up in the second half. What is it, 200 of Matt Stafford's 324 yards passing came in the second half. And so you got to know that that injury is going to factor into what version of that Eagles defense we're going to get in the conference championship game and maybe beyond that. But to me, the defense for the Philadelphia Eagles is something that's going to show up every single game. The run game for the Philadelphia Eagles is something that's going to show up every single game. So regardless of what you get in the passing game from Jalen Hurts, A.J. Brown, and Devontae Smith, you know you can hang your hat on those things, and that's going to make the Philadelphia Eagles hard to beat. If they don't have the self-inflicted wounds, if they don't have a lot of penalties, if they don't have any turnovers, they're going to be a team that presents a lot of problems for the Washington Commanders and whoever they would face if they make it to the Super Bowl.
This team is awesome right now, and they're better than they were last year, and their head coach is not on the. Their head coach is closer to a contract extension than he is termination in my mind.
I don't know if I agree with that.
Come on, he's been unbelievable.
You're saying he's been unbelievable. He almost blew a 13-point lead in less than 5 minutes to go at home in the snow.
I get it,
but it didn't.
They came a 3rd and 2 away from blowing the game.
I get it.
They came a lookout block from Ben Lemur away from blowing the game.
I think this guy's good now.
I'm not going to do that.
Think about all the things this season that we talked about, the drama that could have been issues, could have been things to derail a season. So you have to give him credit. The fact that all of these little things kept popping up where we would say, oh, is there tension here? Is there tension there? People are reading books on the sideline. All this stuff that could have snowballed like it did last season into derailing this Eagles team, and it didn't. So, yeah.
Snowball was the pun intended?
Maybe a little bit. But I'm going to give Nick Sirianni credit where I think it's due. I think he's done a really, really strong job this season.
Y'all are off your rockers. No. What do you mean?
The record speaks for itself.
The team is foolproof. It's small. You can go out there and coach the Philadelphia Eagles. You could.
Me and Big Dom.
You could be the head coach. You absolutely could. You got Vic Fangio as your coordinator on defense. You got Kellen Moore, the coordinator on offense. You could go out there and be the head coach of the Philadelphia Eagles and had his team in the conference championship game.
I would like to
It's foolproof. Howie Roseman did a phenomenal job at being able to put this roster together, and it's why I said if the Eagles don't win a championship this year, if they can't have postseason success this year, when is it going to get better for Nick Sirianni in terms of the roster that he has to work with? It's not. And so you have to be able to take advantage of it. And credit where credit is due, he's not getting in the way. But by no means did I watch that game and say Nick Sirianni was the difference in the Eagles being able to beat the LA Rams.
But let's be fair. Based on what we just talked about, and if you missed our conversation just now about the Ravens and the Bills, go back on our podcast and listen. John Harbaugh loses that game if he's coaching Philadelphia based on past performance.
No.
Yeah. I mean, he's bad in these games now. I mean, Nick Sirianni has to get some level of credit. The guy wins it.
You're saying John Harbaugh is a better coach than Nick Sirianni? Nick Sirianni is a better coach than John Harbaugh.
In the playoffs right now, yeah.
Okay.
A totality? Of course not. Right this moment in the postseason, his quarterback is banged up. He figured out a way around that, and they won a football game.
It's easy to figure out a way around that when you have that offensive line.
I get it.
When you have that running back.
But it's not like the opposition doesn't know Jalen Hurts is banged up. They have an awesome defensive front. Jared Verse, phenomenal yesterday.
You mean the opposition that allowed Saquon Barkley to rush for 255 yards in week 12?
That wasn't great.
The same one that allowed the Eagles to set a franchise rushing record in the playoffs with 285? So that defensive front? Okay.
Tell me what Sirianni has to do.
Listen, the Rams defense knew what was coming before they got off the plane in Philadelphia.
I get it.
They knew what time it was, and they still couldn't stop it.
But, Cece, tell me what Sirianni has to do for you to say, you know what, he's closer to a contract extension than he is termination. Is it just win the Super Bowl?
At this point, it'd be a disappointment, right?
So if he loses the Super Bowl?
First of all, they have to get there.
Right. Yeah.
Right. They got to get there, and we can't be dismissive of the Washington Commanders because they have a rookie quarterback.
I'm not going to.
We saw this weekend, Jayden Daniels is not your typical rookie quarterback. The rules don't apply. But we're kidding ourselves if we don't think